Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption, more commonly known as Shawshank Redemption, is considered by many to be Stephen King's great masterpiece. Even Stephen King haters, people who think he's just a hack horror author, will concede the fact that Shawshank Redemption is a masterpiece. And after reading it, I agree, it's amazing. Welcome to Shawshank Correctional Facilities, better known as the Shank by the inmates who preside there. This story follows our two main characters, Red, who is our narrator, and Andy, who is our protagonist/hero. One of these guys definitely belongs behind bars, and the other guy definitely does not. Their bromance, friendship, is just incredibly heartwarming, and seeing how this friendship develops across the years and decades will just bring a smile to your face. It's incredibly moving. Before reading this wonderful novella, I was of the impression that it was just a prison break story. And boy, was I wrong. I was not expecting such a thought-provoking work. I thought many of the people who saw the movie, which I have not, were just saying, oh, it was a great movie, which means it's a masterpiece of a book. No. What I read was a biting critique of many of the ills of the prison industrial complex, like how prisoners are used as cheap labor, how there's rampant corruption, rampant violence, how there's a dehumanizing power dynamic that takes place in correctional facilities across the country, mainly things like that. Shawshank Redemption is a very politicized work. There are many of the old guard, the old school Stephen King constant readers who talk about how King is a lot more political now than he was in the 70s and 80s. And that's just cap. I don't know if it's King's constant, tweeting, or if it's King's recent books, or if it's just people are a little fatigued about the virus that shall not be named being brought up in King's recent works. I don't know what it is. But The Shawshank Redemption is by far the most political work from the author I have ever read. Listen to this one quote. As far as that bunch of jumped up Republican Rotarians in Augusta was concerned, there were only 3 viable expenditures of the taxpayers' money in the field of prisons and corrections. Number 1 was more walls, number 2 was more bars, and number 3 was more guards. That is a statement that if a politician said that today would be considered incredibly left-wing and very radical. So, no, Stephen King is not more liberal. I think a lot of his fans are just, they grew up. They're in a different political, sphere than Stephen King is. They're more right-wing. Stephen King paints a very bleak picture of what life is like behind bars. It is gritty, it is depressing, it is ugly, it is dehumanizing. And he does not shy away from some of the more unsavory, controversial topics and things that happen in prisons, in correctional facilities. Like, there's an entire story arc about booty bandits that did not need to be included. I don't think it added anything to the story. In fact, it was the only part of the story that I did not enjoy because it was just so jarring. But I do understand why he made the stylistic decision to keep that in there, because it's a reality. There's a lot of ugly realities about things that happen behind bars. Yes, Shawshank Redemption is a story about the harsh realities of life behind bars. But more than anything, it is a story about hope. Because hope is everything. Many of the inmates in the Shank are there because they didn't have hope in their life before prison. They had no agency. They had no freedom beforehand. At least they had the perception of having no freedom. So they make bad decisions that get them locked up. And they see their time behind bars as wasted time. It is hopeless. It is just blank, useless time. But along comes Andy, an incredible individual who gets locked up, but he keeps his hope intact. He has hope for the future. He has hope that he can make up for past wrongs. Because Shawshank Redemption is a story about a condemned man trying to redeem himself, trying to make up for past wrongs. And he betters the life of himself and his fellow inmates. My favorite part of Shawshank Redemption is how Andy influences and causes Red to grow. They are both serving life sentences for crimes. But Andy has hope, and at the beginning of the story, Red doesn't. And you get to see how one positive influence in your life, even in the most dismal of settings, can completely change your life and outlook. After finishing Shawshank Redemption, I had tears in my eyes. And I feel like Stephen King was really trying to get this message across. You are more than just one bad decision. There is always time to redeem yourself. And it was just a very hopeful read from the king of horror. If you're one of those people who aren't sure if Stephen King is their cup of tea because you don't like horror and you're not sure if he can write well, Shawshank Redemption is a book that I think anyone would be impressed by, that anyone could be moved by. And in my humble opinion, that means nothing. I think it is his best work I've read so far. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you liked it, push the little thumbs up icon, subscribe to my channel, ring that bell, all that jazz, and I'll see you guys next time.